Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about. I've talked about that inner, that core strength that you get up against a narcissist, and I'm learning a little bit of new stuff. I guess stuff that I know knew, um, but this is a path I'm on, and these videos I'm new to. So other new people are coming into my feed. And so now I just looked at a couple of things about the super empath versus the narcissist. And that is really, it's interesting because the super empath is the one who's described as being on assignment. That's a kind of a phrase I'm hearing a lot, and it's resonating with me a lot. And it plays right into this thing that I'm going to talk about, which is kind of how I recognize that part of myself, and also recognize that you can be that and still, have something just hit you sideways, make you shake your confidence that much. Just recently, I started questioning something that I thought I would never question again about myself, and I knew enough to know it wasn't real, and going, oh, wow, you are really questioning that? But it was real too. I mean, it's weird. There's an analogy I want to make, but I'm going to stay away from it right now because I don't know how many people it'll hit. Maybe I'll do that later, but I like another. Anyway, the thing is, the image that keeps getting, like what I want to talk about are these moments that I can pinpoint where I went, yeah, I did that. Like I had my full strength. I did not care because I knew that behind me there were going to be stories, and gossip, and worse than gossip, just like complete made up lies. There already had been. I mean, I was watching him and going, God, really that? All right. I know it was also a big ruination of my character, but I know my character. That's kind of the point. But it feels in those moments like when you reach that ultimate point, the image I keep getting is sort of being the one, like someone has just set fire on everything, and you're the one just walking calmly and certainly out of it, away. I mean, it feels like that, but the thing is, those fires are so real, and I think most of us who get to this point, we just keep going through those fires. It is nothing easy, but there's something in us that just keeps going. Nope, not there yet. I don't know. It's just, I don't need this, and I've got something to do. I don't know. There's a drive. Whoa, boy, am I realizing what that is. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about it, like, I'm going to go ahead and do the big one today, which is my mom, the original. A little bit of the, from beginning, but to where I walked out of that fire for good, because it was long. So I was a first child. I had 3 siblings, who were the good ones. So I was just a scapegoat. Even to the point that my dad, who was in his own confusion, and I think my mother was using us both as targets, me and my dad. I'm just learning that. He wasn't scapegoating me as much as everyone else, and I think it was just that it was confusing him about where I was at, because I did become the rebellious, the aggressive, the always doing things wrong, mostly because I didn't know how to do the wrong things without somehow getting caught. And so it's mostly a lot of other people were doing the wrong things, and I kept getting caught. And I think at that point, again, I've mentioned that before. By the time I was probably 2, 3, 4 years old, definitely by 4, I knew that the rules just didn't matter in my world. I could follow the rules, try as hard as I could to figure out what the rules were and go by them. It didn't matter. So rules just became something I had to make for myself to survive in a lot of senses. So that went on. obviously, and caused, I was, opened the doors for a lot of things. By the time I was 15, I was raped. And it just, a lot of that kind of trauma. And then my dad died when I was 21. He was only 46. And at the same time, this is where you don't really fully see the karma hitting someone, or the, but really my mother was just becoming so disabled with the condition that she had, that she was becoming dependent on a wheelchair. And my dad just died immediately. And not only that, died having left nothing, because we kept moving into these big suburban houses and big expensive neighborhoods that, like, now I had moved out by the time he died. I moved out at the age of 19 from them, but that he literally was just barely being able to pay for, paycheck to paycheck, with 3 kids still and 1 in college, and he had paid for the beginning of my college too, so really 2 in college, I guess, at that point, my brother and me. And when he died, it really was a matter of my mom having to sell off everything, things she did not want to sell that house, took a huge downgrade. It was very obvious that all of that was paycheck to paycheck. It was out of our means. That was, yeah. So, but she also had 3 golden kids and 1 scapegoat, and now back in her place of her birth, plenty of sympathy. So things start to look like, wow, she, no matter what happens, she gets to sit there and collect all these rewards from it. But that does break down. The thing is, because of that situation, once I got down there, and by the time I was in my mid-late 20s, and I was working a full-time job, I was volunteering, I was in that best, strongest part of myself. I had gone to college, and I was just really becoming myself, grateful for that time. But she started having, first she lost a part of her home health care, and nobody else was really stepping in and doing anything, but she was telling me she needed help being showered and things like that, and I was like, okay, I can work that in if I can come over before work these days. And so that's how it started. But it ended, with me, like, really going away, getting into a narcissistic abuse marriage for less than a year, getting out of that, but then coming back, and in my own trauma, ending up being her caregiver full time. Because at some point, she started calling me at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, going, "Can you come and help me up? I've been on the bathroom floor for an hour or whatever," because she would never call EMS, just me. Or one of her friends, who, sometimes both of us have to. So here's something I'm really grateful for, because I think it gave me a little bit of extra strength, and I don't know if everybody gets this person in their life. I had an aunt who was, by marriage, an aunt. She married my mother's brother. And she was a nurse. She was an old school nurse, and had her master's degree, had taught. At the end of her life, she was the director of a nursing program in a very prestigious program. So, I couldn't go to any facility, a medical facility where, when I lived there, I would just mention her name and be royalty, which is really ironic, because now I am garbage, 56-year-old woman with no kids, in Texas, no less. It's not where I'm from, where I am. You feel it. But, so this aunt, who was the one person in the family that I really came to trust, because she was the only person that seemed real. She would hold me, she would truth me out, is the thing. She would truth anybody out. And people by turns hated that, of course, and I hated it, because she would tell me some real truths, like, some of my acting out. It was really funny, because I would withdraw and just kind of watch things, but then I would act out in some really weird ways. And I think even as a young kid, I was like learning to mess with people, because I felt like they were messing with me. But, I think at a certain point, she definitely pointed out to me things that, I might be scaring some of the younger kids with that stuff. It's a vague memory, but I do know that she would truth me out, and I would not be happy about it all the time. But I knew I could count on her also to be the one to come get beside me. even when I was younger. So it wasn't a like, I don't like you kind of thing. You know, it's just that I'm going to shoot straight with you, and I'm also going to sit here with you and, you know, tell you the things I like about you, which was something very familiar to me. That's kind of what my dad did, and my grandma, his mom and dad. They were like that. So anyway, I'm up in my 40s and back, you know, taking care of my mom. About really at that point, I don't know how close. It must have been my real early 40s. No, mid 40s. Yeah, because I was, I don't know, I was somewhere in that mid, like closer to getting out of there, knowing I needed to. But she called me one day and said, listen, I know I should have done this a long time ago, and I'm sorry I didn't. But people know what your mom does to you. I don't know why none of us ever have acknowledged that. People know. I definitely know, and I see how she does it to this person and this, her sister and these two friends. But you get it the worst. You get it the worst, and everybody knows that. A lot of people won't even admit it. She said it, but it has been admitted before a little, so they know. And she goes, I don't know why she chooses the people she does. And in the inside, I'm thinking, I do. But that meant so much to me, just to hear that validated from the person, in my space right then, that I probably respected more than anyone else, to hear that. It ended up that I went and she asked me, this badass nurse, what, I don't know if either one of us, she even knew that this was the end of her life. She was relatively young as far as I'm concerned, 72, but called me and said, I cannot stand these home health care people anymore. All of them just come in here and don't do anything, and they're on their phones watching my TV, and I've been racking my brain what to do, and I don't know why I didn't think of this before. Would you come over here? And I was like, oh God, yes. I ended up taking care of her up until the end of her life. And I'm very humbled and feel privileged to have been able to spend that time with her. And to be able to do things that I never would have done before, like go get her cigarettes and Cokes that I knew she shouldn't have, but at a certain point I knew this woman had been riddled with cancer and things too. She was a survivor. She was one of those people, and I mean, I'm just really, I feel honored that I got that, and she did so much for me. But this leads to what I want to get to. I got out on my own. I did a lot of work to get myself whole and strong out of that, and I got fully in it. Made some decisions, and one of them was to drive across the country and to start a second chapter of my life. The day that I left, the morning that I left, which was complete chaos up to this point, but I stopped at my mother's house, and I went in, and I said to her, listen, I have tried to have these conversations with you. Now, you know, I just want you to hear me out, and I only need to know one thing. So, you know, and I said, I've expressed my respect for you for many things. You know, I've expressed my respect for you and how you've gotten your education, how you've lived your life, what you've accomplished. I've expressed my respect for you for how you handled Dad's death and had to take so many things on at once. I came here and took care of you, made sure that you were fed comfortable. I cared for you all through C. diff, which was months of a nightmare. And again, I have expressed my respect for all of these things and tried to have honest conversations with you. So at this point, all I really need to hear from you is, do you have any respect for me at all? And she looked totally like, not expecting that, and she paused a minute and said, I don't know. And I just stood there knowing. I said, yeah, that's pretty much what I expected, some version of that. So I really am leaving, and fully prepared. I'm going. I don't intend to be back, and even if I am, this will be the last time that we see each other. I love you. Goodbye. And I left. I meant it. It wasn't the first of my walkaways, but it was the most important and the first one that I had to do, to be like, yeah, I know what kind of stuff you're, and that's the backside of it. I know what kind of stuff you're saying about me. She had run so many stories on me that she has people convinced that I'm some kind of a drug junkie, and there are reasons why that is actually able to fly that story. She can back it up with somebody else's lies, oddly enough. Because I stopped experimenting with drug use when I was in high school, and after that, I was mostly just a binge drinker and cannabis. Yeah, but she was spinning stories of meth, which, if you can see me here, I'm burning muscle right now and not happy about it. If I tried to do speed, I would literally just disappear. But I am very high energy and high metabolism and ADHD, and can't take that speed. So I knew these stories in my wake, and they were all about, this woman was calling me a slut by the time I was 10, and then gaslighting me when I got brave enough to ask her. See, that's the thing. All along, she would message these things, and then I was being scapegoated, and all along, I just had this fight in me that kept going, that's not right. This doesn't work. That's not me. And it made me a searcher for all kinds of truth. Thus the assignment part. It really turned me into that. But it also turned me into someone who just kept having to go through those fires and come out again like that. Come out again and say, I am not going to indulge you in this. Can block people. Even, leave a city once, which was easy enough for me to do because I was only there for a short writing contract. And once I found out this guy was going to stalk me all over town, easy enough to go, oh, road trip. And turns out I got a concert to go to anyway, out of here, really to a whole different town. I'm a road tripper. I do that stuff. And I had a place to go anyway. I was just leave early again. But that's what I want to explain, and I think maybe us people who just keep being able to pick ourselves up and really do that, not internalize that garbage on some level, even while we know we're internalizing some of it, not internalize it so much that we can't just look at you and go, you know what, I'm going to put this right to you. I know where we're at, but we're both going to know where we're at when I walk away from this. I've taken to calling myself a truthy bitch, and for real, I'm the kindest truthy bitch you'll ever meet, but not always nice. And when you've been in the face of that many abusers, and you can see things clearly for what they are, and you can also see the kind of urgency with which we need to start flipping some scripts real hard. Yeah, I don't mind being the truthy bitch in the room. I don't mind shooting it out there, really. And seeing who's going to pay attention and get here with me and who's not. It's important. And it's important for those of you out here who probably are empathetic in some way, and that's why this narcissist glommed onto you the way they did and might be fucking with your life, to help give you the extra tools that we have. See what you can dig through and use of them. I was in the habit early in my life, and I learned this from, he was an empath too. I think he must have been a super, super, super empath. My grandma too. But I took to even telling bosses when I was in corporate, account management and stuff like that, jobs, and they would give me some kind of, do this, try this, and I would go, that's in no part of me to be able to pull that off, and then would find myself in a situation where I'd be like, oh, he did, and get out and go, God, Dawn, I just did that thing that I told you I would never do, and it worked. You never know. And, so all of us that are out here talking to you about narcissism and these ways of sturdying yourself up, listen to the stuff that you even think I could never possibly, because there's probably some part of you, and at some point, the need for it, that you can pull that out and be like, man, glad I had it. It's one thing when it makes you money. It's a whole other when it feeds your soul. So, so that's for what it's worth. Keep plugging away at how we not how we coexist with these empaths, but how we get past them, walk away from them, join forces, and don't let them win. Because again, on a systemic level, that's winning. I'm going to keep pounding away at that. On a systemic level, that is winning, and people are getting propagandized by that at a huge level. But let's work on just getting the tools, getting the ways to walk out of those fire, just being the one at the end of the corny formulaic movie who just is walking out of the fire like, yep, you guys, I'm good, got places to be. It works in a weird way sometimes, but it works. Peace, loves.